Welcome to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast with your host, legendary powerlifter and strength athlete, Chad Ikes. For most, the journey of strength starts in the gym, but should inevitably expand through all aspects of life. Join us as we discuss all things strength. Now, here's your host, Chad Ikes.
Hey, everybody. I'm back. Today, I want to talk about the coefficient in powerlifting and how a lot of the best lifter awards are based on coefficient. I am dealing with some of my sleep issues, which I think I'll try and get ahead of the game and do another podcast, or at least record another podcast right after this on that one. So I might be a little off today, but we're going to see how it goes. You can't just quit and give in. You got to keep going. So anyway, for those that don't know, the coefficient or the best lifter award, powerlifting has weight classes. So you can win your weight class and then they'll do like an overall best lifter. And a lot of times, especially now, it seems like a lot more now than it used to be, that is done by coefficient. And a coefficient is basically, I think there's 4 different ones, hell, maybe 5 different ones, I don't know. It's basically a body weight to strength ratio kind of thing. And I'll come right out from the very beginning, and I don't necessarily agree that that's the best lifter, but if you need to choose a way and you want a set way to have the best lifter award, then I really don't give a shit. I think I've won maybe 3 best lifter awards in my whole powerlifting career. One of them I actually got a jacket. That was one of the APF California State meets, and I got like a Letterman jacket, which was actually pretty cool. It was back then, I think I had a 630 bench press or something like that. Wasn't nowhere near what I did my best as, but it was really good in the day, and it has my name. They had it embroidered and stuff, and it was actually kind of a cool award, I thought, than just a medal or a trophy or something like that. But here, I'm doing this. I wanted to talk about this because I think it was JP Carroll did a post on the coefficient, and then I responded to it and got more responses and more likes, and there was a bunch of activity on it. And I thought, well, maybe it'd make a good podcast to talk about. So let's see, where do I want to start? Let's start with strongman. The original strongman, they didn't have weight classes. They wanted to see who was the strongest. In the Highland Games, I don't believe there's any weight classes. There's masters groups and the level of thrower you are. They just want to know who can throw the furthest. Shot put, I've never really seen a best thrower award. Strongman now, I think, has 3 weight classes. They did end up splitting it up, which is cool. I mean, a 180-pound guy shouldn't have to compete with a 300-pound guy. But then again, the 180-pound guy could become a 300-pound guy. So kind of depends on how you look at it. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of different sports out there where nobody goes, oh, well, the best is the lightest person. Or the best is the lightest person per body weight, per strength. And I've just, in my mind, that's always been kind of weird to me. We have weight classes. You win your weight class. Okay, cool. Why does there even need to be a best lifter? And in my day, because I started competing in like 97, we had a lot of the smaller, at least like local state meets. The best lifter was kind of just picked by either the competitors or by the people running the competition. So, I mean, what is best lifter? If it is, hey, we're going to pick the best coefficient lifter, then say it's the best coefficient lifter. Because who's to say if a 90-year-old dude comes out, like, to me, that's he's just the fact that he's 90 and he's competing he should be in the running for best lifter. If I know somebody is on chemo and still comes to do that meet, the fact that they're coming to the meet and if they're doing well, even if they're hitting PRs on chemo and they have the little stint, man, hey, what's best lifter? To me, best lifter doesn't necessarily mean the most weight lifted. And it doesn't mean the most per body weight lifted. Like, best lifter can mean a lot of different things to me. And, it could be a newcomer that came in there and just hit some huge numbers. That could be really cool to see. I mean, anybody who comes to a meet and hits PRs is doing pretty good. Like, they could be the best lifter. Why isn't the best lifter who made the most improvement over their last meet? Or why isn't there a most improved award? I mean, we could go down the gamut of different awards and why they are, but what is best lifter? And even at best lifter, we're powerlifting. What is powerlifting about? To me, it never really was how I looked. It was how much weight could I lift? Like, if I wanted it to be important in how I looked, I would go into bodybuilding or whatever, the guys that wear the board shorts, that kind of thing. It was never about what I looked like. It was about how much I could lift. So for me, I didn't really have the genetics to stay at 220 or 240, which is my natural body weight, and get as strong as I wanted to be. I did a whole lot better getting bigger and getting stronger than trying to stay the same weight and getting stronger. It's just my genetics. It's just the way things worked out for me. So I ended up going from, I think by the time I did my first bench meet, I was like 270, which was on the high end for me. But eventually I got up to 397 pounds and I didn't feel good and I wasn't gaining, my strength had slowed down. I wasn't gaining strength like I was and I felt like shit. So I dropped back down to 385, started making strength gains again. So I stayed in that 365 to 385 area, which was not by any means easy. It was really difficult to stay that big. And it definitely had issues in life being that big. You can't find clothes that fit. You don't fit in cars. Hiking mountains, which I love to do, was way more work than it could have been. But that was a sacrifice I made to be as strong as I was. So then if we're going to take this further and go down further, I was thinking about this the other day and I tried to quickly look some information up on that and I couldn't find any. So if we're going, per pound, strongest man pound for pound, if you're a person who has genetically bigger bones, you're going to have more body weight of bigger bones. If you're a bigger person, you have heavier tendons, heavier organs, bigger organs to some extent. So that's going to change your weight ratio. If we're going to do like pound for pound, shouldn't we you got to come in with a body fat check and we're going to do lean mass per strength kind of a thing? If we're really going to get into it, because everybody's going to be different. Like somebody who has small knee joints, their bones, generally speaking, their frame and everything is going to be less per their total body weight than somebody like me who I have small wrists and hands, but I have big knees. That's going to be different. And then if we're looking at that, so it, was powerlifting, and I don't know, maybe for a smaller person, powerlifting was how strong can I get and how light can I be? That I don't know, because for me, it was always just get as strong as you can. Go up in weight. I was never afraid to go up in weight classes. I got to get bigger to get stronger. So that's what I'm going to do. So that was my thought process. But maybe there are people who go, no, I'm going to be the strongest and lightest I can, and that is their goal. And if that's the case, then I guess coefficient should be the best lifter, if that's what you think powerlifting is. I happen to think powerlifting is just the strongest in the world, because if a 155-pound guy goes to the track meet and throws a shot put 50 feet, does that mean he's a better thrower than Ryan Krauser, who threw 76 feet? Because Ryan's 6'7" and like 300 plus pounds? I don't think so. I think Ryan's the best in the world, the best ever at this point. Although Kovacs is coming up on him, so it's gonna be a really cool year with the shot put. And then let's go down now to gear. So if you break down the coefficients, the lightest people always have the best coefficients, and the best super heavyweights don't have a chance. There's no way. I mean, there's just no way. You have small little girls, little smaller women, I should say. They're not little girls, but they're pulling 3 times, 4 times body weight. You know, a 350-pound guy to pull 4 times his body weight, what is that, 1,400 pounds or something like that? Even to pull 3 times his body weight is like 1,050. Like the world record is still just about 1,000. So there's hardly any people that are ever going to be able to do that. So I think there's some sort of physics in there that does not lean towards coefficients and body weight stuff. But let's go now to, say, belts. I can only have a belt that's so wide. But somebody who's 4'9" can wear the same belt I can wear. So now they have this huge, from rib cage to pelvic bone. Man, it's all supported. They can build so much IAP and pressure. Like, I would love it if I could get a belt that was twice as thick as the belt I have now. That'd be like a damn corset. I'd wear that in a heartbeat. You know, you take that same person, we can both have the same length of knee wraps. I hate wrapping smaller people because it takes forever. Like, if I get 10 or 12 wraps around my knee, they're getting 25. I've never actually counted, but I've wrapped small people, and it's like, holy man, wow, I wish I could get this many times around here. I could get them that much tighter and get that much more support. Same thing with your wrist wraps. Plus, let's look at a deadlift bar. The shorter you are, the closer you are to the bar. The less length you have to pull it. I mean, should a shorter person have a smaller diameter plate on the side? To me, this is all getting crazy. This is just stuff that pops into my head. And personally, I'm not trying to make an argument for there should be no coefficient. I'm trying to make an argument for it being best lifter. Is that really the best lifter because of the coefficient? You know, people go, oh, well, and the best, and this is, I'm going to say this is going to sound bad, but the best lifters, some of them are naturally that weight. So they stay their natural weight. Well, that's pretty easy. And then there's some that eat really, really clean. And that's not easy to do. I mean, some of these guys are 220, 240 pounds, man, and they're shredded. That's not easy to do. Like, they've got a lot of effort in their nutrition and their diet. And even some of the girls that are like 115, 120 pounds, like, they're lean. My guess is they're eating clean and putting tons of effort into their nutrition to maintain that weight and still be able to train like they do. But on the flip side of that, people think it's easy getting big. It is not easy getting big. I literally hated food. Hated it. One of my favorite things after a meet, people are like, dude, what are you going to do after the meet? And I go, not eat for a week. And I didn't actually not eat for a week, but I would cut down to like 1 meal a day. And all my meals would get cut in half. It sucked being 385 pounds. I don't care what I ate. And I ate some shit food because I just needed the calories, man. It was hard enough to get enough calories to maintain 385 pounds. And I mean, I'm not saying I was lean, but I had a lot of goddamn muscle. It was not easy. The people at my work would sit and watch me eat because they thought it was amusing as hell. And they're always like, dude, how many chomps in that last bite? And I'm like 150. Like, you can't even get it down anymore. And the stuff that you normally love, you now hate. Like, you hate all of it. Eating itself is just monotonous to you because you're eating so much and so often. Not to mention how many times a day you're pooping. You go through a lot of toilet paper. So whatever you spend in food, you're going to spend 25% in toilet paper too. Which means a lot of time in the bathroom, a lot of wiping, and it starts becoming really important what brand of toilet paper you use. Trust me. So, to some extent, staying small and maintaining your weight or staying lean is very difficult. Well, it's also difficult to get up to a massive, huge weight. And then all the problems of trying to find clothes that fit. And even if you do find clothes that fit you, they fit like shit because I guess everyone that's big, is just huge and fat for apparel companies or clothing companies. So I don't think it's easy on either end of the spectrum. And I think we need to kind of keep that in mind. I really hated eating. Really. It's been years since I competed and I'm down because of my sleep and stuff. I'm down to like 309 today. I was 385 before COVID, and I just still don't enjoy eating like a normal person, but it gets a little better every year. But there was a lot of forcing food down. For me, I would have never squatted like high 11s and 1,200 pounds being 275. I just don't think my body would have done that or put up with that. I don't see how I could have. There are guys that can. There are guys that have the genetics to maintain a lower weight and being crazy strong. That really didn't seem an option for me. Every time I tried to hold my weight down, I wouldn't make as good a gains in my strength. And I was after putting up the biggest numbers I could possibly put up. So there's all these different factors. When you really break it down and you really start thinking about it, it's like, why are we even like bothering with this? You know, I don't understand it. Like, I can go, hey, that 130, I think it's 132 pound person bench 300 pounds. That's crazy. That's awesome. Well, if a 400 pound guy benches 300, I'm like, yeah, he's 400 pounds. Come on, that dude ought to be benching a lot more than that. So I have a full understanding of sizes and how the numbers are going to change. I think everyone kind of does. And it was funny when I used to compete in the WPO, especially the finals at the Arnold Classic. I would always go the day earlier just because I wanted to make sure what the venue looked like, wanted to make sure what the warm-up room looked like. I kind of wanted to watch what judges were doing and just get the layout of all of it. And I felt bad. I honestly felt bad for the smaller guys because the smaller guys would all go the first day. And there'd be some people there, but not like the crowd when the super heavyweights came out. Like, I don't think people care so much what the body weight is. They just want to see huge, massive guys lift huge, massive weights. And I kind of understand that because that's what I was. I didn't want to watch, a 180-pound guy do strongman. I wanted to watch Kazmaier. I wanted to watch John Cole. I wanted to watch Bruce Wilhelm. I just wanted to see the biggest dudes lifting the biggest weights. That was cool to me. But like I said, I do have a full understanding of a guy and smaller. And then people go, oh, well, they're only this big. They can't put on that kind of weight. And I go, well, Anthony Clark was like, 5'4"? He weighed 330 pounds. So you could put on that weight if you wanted. And I understand not wanting to, too. That's why we have weight classes. That's why you have a weight class you can compete in. And that's really, really cool. I've always thought that was a cool thing about powerlifting. So if you want to get massive, you can. If you don't, you can kind of compete with somebody in your own weight class. But even at that weight class, you have kind of a choice at that weight class because it's a window, like 242 to 275. If you're at the bottom of that and you're like, hey, I'm kind of short, I think I'm going to drop down a little bit because I'm going to fit better and have better leverages in that lower class. You know, if you're 6'1" and you're 240, or say you're 220 and you're like, man, I'm 6'1" at the 220s. I'm going to be competing against guys that are shorter with better leverages. I think I'll just put on some weight and go 242s and have better leverages. So in the weight classes, there's different ways you can go up and down to kind of optimize your leverages and the weight that you want to be and how you want to look. I mean, I lived as a super heavyweight. It's not the easiest thing in the world. I can understand somebody going, Chad, I don't want to be that big. Like, I get it. I understand it because it was, hell, I was still trying to ride my dirt bikes at 360. And it was beat the shit out of me. And I tore up my suspensions because there's not a suspension made for a guy that big that actually functions right. At least not without spending a ton of money. So I get it. I get not wanting to be that big. My question is, why does that, I think my problem is probably best lifter. Why does that mean they're the best lifter? Because of their coefficient? Well, what I mean, if we're going to do a coefficient, what are we really looking at here? You know, and I would have to look deeper into it. I mean, I honestly never gave enough shits to actually look at the different coefficients and how they're figured. I just know roughly they're all some way of calculating body weight to strength. But, you know, where does all that stuff factor in? And okay, if you got a guy in his 50s, where does that factor in? If you got a guy in their 80s, where does that factor in? And how do you calculate that? Because the older a person gets, the less and less people are actually going to compete at that age group. And to me, that's actually kind of impressive. Because, I mean, just the fact that you're 90 years old and you're stepping on a powerlifting platform, to me, is outstanding. Because most people aren't even they don't have the guts to attempt that at 90. Or they haven't been lifting. You know, to me, that's impressive. And how are you going to calculate that into a coefficient? And like I said, if you have somebody who is coming in with chemo, or somebody who is really sick and they're making a comeback, or there's a lot of different factors in there to me that are best lifter. What is best lifter? What's the definition of best lifter? You know, what about the guy who comes out and maybe he didn't come in the right weight, or something happened in his prep? He bombs out in his first 2 lifts, but doesn't quit, comes out and hammers his third one. That's an awesome lifter right there to me. That's a mentally strong lifter, and that's impressive. So who's to say that he's not the best lifter? Like, I think this is an argument that's pretty much pointless. And it's kind of like going, who was the better linebacker? You know, Butkus, or I don't know who, but like a guy from the 70s or a guy now. Well, you can't even really compare. The game's different. The gear's different. Everything's different. I think the best of the best is going to find a way to be the best of the best no matter what. So why are we arguing about it? You know, and then when a record changes, you're like, oh, well, this guy did more. Like, who's a better thrower, Randy Barnes or Ryan Krauser? Well, Ryan Krauser broke Randy Barnes' record. Is that it? Does that mean he's the better thrower? I don't know. Randy Barnes beat everyone else's record at that when he was there. The record just wasn't as high. Maybe there wasn't as much knowledge. Maybe there wasn't as much publicity. Maybe there wasn't, you know, the supplements and the food and nutrition and everything that they've learned from then till now. Who's the best thrower? I think that's a dumb argument. I don't think it matters at all. So in the end, that's my true feeling is I really don't give a shit. And the Best Lifter Award isn't something I ever looked for anyway. I think the times that I did get it, I was like, huh, what? Did they say my name? Really? Awesome. Because I never expected it. Because it's not, you don't see too many heavier guys that do that. And even if it is on the heavier end, it's usually the 275s, maybe some 308s. And usually that's in the smaller meets. Like in the bigger meets, it's generally smaller people, I would say. Just because that's the way the coefficient thing works. It's based on leverages and body weight. And is there a coefficient that figures height per weight? If you have two people and they're close on coefficient, shouldn't the taller guy get the win because he's taller and that's going to change his leverages? I don't know. Don't know. Don't really care. But I do find it interesting to talk about and to think about. Because I know a lot of people that don't ever really think about the gear. Well, you can wrap your wrist wraps around your wrist double the times that I can. Is that really fair? Your knee wraps are longer, your belt's wider. Is that I mean, if we're trying to go what's fair or what's not, or who's the best lifter, I can go, yeah, but you got a big fat belt. Give me a big fat belt and how much more can I lift? Let me wear 2 sets of knee wraps and then how much more can I lift? And I've honestly never done that, so I don't really know how much it would help. But in my mind, if you're wearing a belt properly and you can get that much more support out of it, it's going to help you lift more. I get a lot out of knee wraps, and I can't even go around them many times. So give me some bigger knee wraps, and I'll bet you I get more out of it. How much more? I don't know. So in the end, I just thought it was an interesting topic. Who really cares? I imagine best lifter is going to always go to a coefficient or most of the time just because it's the easiest thing to do. Which coefficient they want to follow, I don't care. I'm not even sure, like open powerlifting, I'm not even sure which one open powerlifting uses. You could probably look it up on all of them in open powerlifting. But it's just something to think about. I mean, in the end, to me, the sport's about being as strong as you can. I don't think I should lose a meet because somebody has abs and I don't, because it's powerlifting. Now, if I went to a bodybuilding competition, I should get my ass kicked. And I would, because that's about aesthetics. And I don't have aesthetics. But that wasn't my concern. So, enough yapping about it. That's how I feel. Yeah, I don't care. Give the best lifter a coefficient. I don't care. I'm worried about winning my weight class. I was worried about being the number one in my weight class. Actually, I wanted the highest total of all time. I didn't give two shits about the weight class. I just wanted the biggest number, and I was going to do whatever I could do to get it, which meant getting bigger. I'm out.
Thanks for listening to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast. For more information, please visit couragebarbell.com. Until next time.
Recording stopped.